I've always felt a calling on my life, like there was some great purpose for me to pursue. I thought it would happen on its own. Like I'd wake up one morning and blam, I'd be a hero, or create an amazing business, or solve some problem in the world. But decades would prove that would never come. So I decided enough was enough. I needed to find out why I was here and what was preventing me from finding it. Along the way, I found these 6 signs that may be keeping you from living God's calling in your life. Number 1, you struggle with habitual sin. I know. No one likes to talk about sin. Simply put, God has created a standard for all of us to follow, but we all fall short of it, myself included. Heck, I can't even keep my own standards. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. And to be honest, they're pretty easy to figure out. Lust, sex, money, drugs, alcohol, you name it. The gamut is there. Even envy, anger, and jealousy. The why part is a little bit more tricky to figure out. Maybe it's boredom or a lack of self-control, or even living too small or missing your calling completely. But whatever the reason, these habitual sins are fulfilling some need in your life. Number 2, you're constantly focused on the future. But you're probably thinking, Jay, I set goals for myself. I have plans for the future. And it's fine to think about your future. It's fine to set goals. But when the phrase "when I" continually comes from your mouth or is in your thoughts, like when I get married, or when I have kids, or when I grow up, or when I'm 21, or when I'm retired, or when the kids are grown, you're missing the life that's happening right now. It causes a lack of contentment and a loss of joy because the future is not in your control. It stirs up all this striving, anxiety, and grasping, even lack of fulfillment in things like work or being with your family. Constantly focusing on the future robs you of joy now. It causes you to miss out on the present. Number 3, blaming other people or your lot in life. In some ways, this is the opposite of constantly looking at the future. It's blaming the people around you and your current circumstances for the reason why you can't make progress. It's everyone else's fault. And it's true to an extent. You can't control whether or not your job fires you, or that guy cuts you off, or that customer service rep that decided to make you an example. We have no control over those things. But this one's about not taking responsibility for the things that are within your power to do. If you're constantly focused on external factors, you're really going to miss out on what God is trying to do in your life. Number 4, you don't seek out connections with others. Proverbs 18:1 in the New King James Version says, "A man who isolates himself rages against all wise counsel." And this isn't about going to church, though it's important. It's about being connected to other believers who are on the same mission. God calls one person to go and feed the hungry. That person should go and find other people who are on the same mission and pursue God over that calling. For me, finding a couple guys who are making YouTube their mission field, that's who I'm looking for. So if you find yourself isolating from others, you're really missing out on the experience of sharing in one another's story, and that keeps you living small. Number 5, wasting time. This is not about taking time to rest or relax or enjoy some entertainment. But if a large part of your life is spent scrolling through some app or binging on Netflix and YouTube videos, then you might need to ask yourself if you're wasting your time. Wasting time gets in the way of exploring your interests, which may lead to discovering your calling. It takes away from growing your skills, learning about God, and serving His people. Before we get to number 6, the point of this video is to understand the enemy, the things that are getting in the way of you discovering your calling in life. When you understand these things, you can put a plan for a strategy in place to move past the things that are blocking you, which makes you live for a greater purpose when you put these things behind you. It's identifying what these things are and then tackling them one at a time. If you decide to do this, you'll be amazed at where you'll be in a year. Number 6, you avoid risk at all costs. I'm not talking about becoming a base jumper, but I want you to understand that no matter what it is you choose to do or choose not to do, there's a risk involved. Your roof may collapse, your house might catch on fire. You might trip and fall on your way up the stairs to the bathroom. We get in our cars every day and we think it's perfectly safe, but there's always a chance that we'll get into a wreck. Risk is everywhere. It's inherent in this world that we live in. And if you dig into the parable of the talents, the master goes away and he gives everybody a little bit of money. The first person gets it and 10x's it. The second, 5x's. But the last guy, what does he do? He takes that money and buries it in the field. And when his master returns, he gives it back to him, saying, "I knew you were a tough master, and I didn't want to lose your money." And the master says to him, "You evil servant, you could have at least invested this money into the bank and gotten interest on it, but instead you did nothing." God calls us to take steps of faith, and sometimes those steps are very hard. But one thing I found to be true, that God honors the smallest step. And if you're trying to live your life without taking any risks or any steps of faith, you will not find your calling. In fact, it's the very opposite of finding your calling. Would you take a moment to subscribe to this channel if you found this video helpful, and check out this video next?